So, hello everyone, I'm Edgar, and in this video I'm explaining my homework that is to create a game based on HTML Canvas. Really very basic game, but I have to explain it, so here I am doing that. So the game is very basic. It is a gorilla that tries to avoid some cacti, and each time they hit him, the gorilla game ends, and when I close the bar, it starts over. The difficulty level grows up as cacti hit the one of the walls, this or this. They get accelerated, so they make it more difficult to survive. And as you guessed, the goal is to survive as long as possible. Um, this is it. So I'll go over my files and explain it. To start, I need the HTML file that has a canvas inside with its width and height. Also, I have an ID here, and I don't want to write my JavaScript inside of HTML, so I sourced it into here. I call my canvas so the JavaScript knows what I'm writing on, and I want my canvas to be two-dimensional, and I mention it over here. Also, I sourced some pictures, PNG and GIF files to be more precise. Here they are. Three types of cacti and some states the gorilla has. For instance, was this one? Standing to L, to left, yeah. So it is basically an animation of a gorilla that stands facing left side. So I'll come to this bit later. I have a function rand that makes some random that returns some random numbers. For instance, if I write rand 10, it would randomly pick one number that is from 0 to 9. This is how it works. Also, my goal is not to use some loops except recursion. So if you don't know what for each is, I just made the for each with using a recursion. And if you don't know what it is, it takes an array and does stuff for each element inside of it. So you'll see why I use it later. What else? Yeah, this thing, it just object calling, array calling some pictures that I have over here. That's it. Also have game data object that has some stuff inside, and an array that is my cacti, two of them. It decides whether it randomly decides, as you can see using a rand function, what the look would be of the cactus. So it takes the picture, one of these three pictures, and decides. Also, it spawns on a random place on x-axis, has its own y coordinate. Both of them have, and x delta, that is that shows which direction the cactus would move on, and whether it would go on right side to the right or to the left. This random function and mathpow thing decide that. Again, randomly, as you understood. I have my hero, that is my gorilla, that has again x-axis, some y, its own image width, height, again x delta and y delta. So I use y delta for jumping and x delta for moving from right to left or from left to right. What else? So I make some global constants, that is hero, calling from game data hero, not so I don't write this every time, and the same for the enemy. So basically for cacti, I have my jump height. So my gorilla would not jump higher than what I have over here, and floor Y is mentioned over here. It is canvas height minus 91. So it is what's on, like, it is the floor in my game for the gorilla. Also, I have some draw function that draws everything on the canvas. As you can see, I have context.draw image. Context is this two-dimensional canvas basically. So I tell function to to draw on it an image that has that is a background image of my game, its coordinates, width, and height. That is my canvas height and width. I have another one for drawing my gorilla. Here you can see. Also, I use for each here to draw my cacti. So context draw image. So it draws for each image. It draws a cacti image, cactus X, Y, width, and height. This is it. I have an update data function. So every time I do something, the game updates it, and simply that's it. I'll go over stuff over here a bit later. Also, I have a loop function that makes my loops. It is again recursive, but over here I have a request animation frame thing that it is a lot of stuff is based on it, so it doesn't make my recursion very fast that it usually is, but it waits some time and then loops my stuff. That is my draw function that you saw previously. Again, my update function that also you saw previously. What is this? I'll come to this a bit later. It is not that important. And I call my loop so it works. Nothing very difficult. And I have my event listeners, bunch of them. And what's this? It's basically when I key down function event, if even key down, no, it is when I press one of my buttons, that is left, right, up, down, and space. Each of them has its own number, its own key code. So here they are, and I call them from here. Not to remember the numbers, I just say left key is 37, up key is 38, and etc. So here I call when I say when key code that is right key is pressed. You can see key down here. When it pressed, check if hero.y, the y coordinate of my gorilla, is floor y. So it is so my gorilla is on the floor. Do stuff that is change its image to gorilla walking. So it stands on the floor and goes to the right, so it should be walking to the right side. I don't write gorilla walking to right, I just wrote gorilla walking to L, to the left side, and leave the other right no name, so just said not to make you confused. Also, I want my hero X be, what I wrote here is basically equal hero.x plus hero x delta. Not to write this every time, I wrote just simply plus equals. So I add x delta to my hero x. This is what basically I do. hero x delta is, as you saw over here, is a 9. So it goes by 9 pixels every time right key button is pressed. What else I have here? Hi. If my gorilla is going to the right side and hits the wall from right side, it returns to the beginning of the game to the left side. So you can see here it goes to the right, hits the wall, but it continues walking from the left to right, so it appears here. And the same I do for the other wall. So you'll see. This is it. Also, I tell else if my code key code is the left key, please check if hero y is equal to floor y, so you understand this line. It is basically the same. So I have hero y equals to floor y. It is basically the same thing. It checks if my gorilla is on the floor of the game. If so, please make your image gorilla walking to L, so it would look like when I press the left key, it's the right now. When I press left, it would change its look to this. It's basically animation, not something important. Also, I want my hero x to decrease by x delta. So again, this would look like it is the same as to write hero dot x minus hero x delta. Not to do that every time. I do this simply. Also, I want to check if my hero x is less than or equal to minus 30, that is hitting the left side of the wall, as I previously told. It would come back to the right side of the game, as you can see over here. I just changed the x coordinate to one that is to the right, so it spawns from the right side of the wall. So also, I want to check stuff for my key code when up key when it is equal to an up key, that is jumping. So when that happens, I want to check if my y delta equals to 0. If so, I change it to a 4, the number 4. So my gorilla would go by 4 pixels, move by 4 pixels. And when that happens, you'll see later on, I'll come back to this point. For down key, what does my game for the down button? Down key, I made gorilla to come to the floor drastically. If I hit the button, it would come drastically to the floor. If I don't, it would just simply come back. And again, I jump and drastically, I hit the cactus. I drastically come back. Or if I don't, it just goes down. Simply. So how I wrote that, I say if my y delta is a 0, I want hero I'm sorry, I set my hero y delta to 0, and also my y coordinate to floor y, so it comes back to the floor regarding what the y coordinate was before. And also it checks if the image was gorilla jumping to right, so I don't write right. I hope you remember I said that. So if it was jumping to the right side, I want my gorilla image animation to be changed to gorilla standing facing again the right side. And So I'm sorry for interruption. My program got stopped, so I have to continue now. I explained this part, and if this is not the case, I want my uh, program, I want the JavaScript to check if gorilla is jumping to the left. If it was the case, then I want my hero.img, my gorilla image, to be set to gorilla standing to left. So when it ascends, when it when it comes back to the floor, it faces the left side. Um, Also, I have stuff for a space bar, but it is not that important for now. I'll come back to it later. I have another add event listener that is a key up. As you can see, this chunk of code was about key down. So when the key was physically pushed, pressed. So this is when I lift my finger up and the key goes up. So that's why it's called key up. When the right key was key up, so when I leave the right key, I want my hero img, my gorilla's image, be set to gorilla standing, that is gorilla facing the right side. So when it was going to right and stops, I want him to still face the right side. And the same for left, when it was going to left, when the left key was pressed, it was going to left, and when I leave it, I want the gorillas face left side. So here is the image. What else? So so let me continue. I'm sorry again for the interruption. My program again had some problems. So I said I'll come back to my up key situation over here. So when up key is pressed, I want my white delta, if it is a 0, be changed to a 4, to a number 4. So my gorilla moves by 4 pixels at each time. So we come back to my update function over here and see what I have. Oh, we don't need this, sorry. So if my hero dot white delta is not a 0, so we change that to 4 when push the up button, up key. I want to check if hero.img is equal to gorilla standing or gorilla walking. So by this, I just basically want to know if my gorilla is facing the right side. So if it is true, I want my gorilla img.img be changed to my hero.img be changed to gorilla jumping. So it jumps facing the left side of the game. Else, if this statement is false, I want to check this. So it is basically the same thing, but for facing the left side. But the gist, the most important thing is over here. I set my hero.y to a negative. I changed it by subtracting hero.y delta, that is number 4. So y minus, because as you know, already know, y x is they grow like so from the up to down, but the number is not negative. It is still positive, and it's positive. Infinity is facing the downside. So that's why I have minus. So to get my gorilla higher, I need to make my y delta, my y coordinates less. So this is why we have a minus over here. And then I want to check if my y coordinate that's been changing because of this, it is less than or equal to my jump height. What is my jump height? It is basically the height, like the ceiling for my gorilla, so it doesn't get over it and does not get launched successful into the space. So for that, I have a constant, a global constant that is over here. So it is a floor y, the floor of gorilla subtracted by 1.5 of its height. So the height gets this number gets from the upper left side of my gorilla picture. So this is why it doesn't seem that it jumps for 1.5 of its height, because we do not start from the floor, the least part of its body, but the highest and indeed the left part, the left side of it. So that's why 1.5 it seems that high. So what else? If this exceeds a jump height, I want to change my y delta, so my gorilla comes back down. So I'm sorry. So here it gets to the ceiling, hits that max jump height of it, and comes back to the floor. But when coming back, it needs to know that there is a floor. So we need to say that if our y coordinate is greater than floor y, or greater than maybe even equal the floor y, let's set our hero y coordinate, our gorilla's y coordinate to floor y, and hero dot delta to 0, so it doesn't move up or down. Also, I want to check if again do some animation thing. Check if it's been jumping to the right, and change its state to gorilla standing to again facing the right, and the same for the left side. Then we come to our cacti. So what we need for them, we need them to move to the left or right side, and when hitting the wall, I want each cactus accelerate by 1.5, so the game gets more difficult. So here is how we write that. If cactus.x is greater than or equal canvas dot width minus cactus dot width, so it is basically the right wall. If it gets over it or equal to, or its coordinate is equal to it, I want to change its x delta so it goes backwards and get accelerated. So each cactus does that. Why each? Because we use for each function, that recursive function that takes every element of the array and does stuff for it. So here is the stuff that it does for each element. So also if it's not the case and cactus was going the other way to the left wall, so if basically we can say if its x coordinate is less than or equal as 0, let's again do a backwards thing. Here you can see that. So also you can understand that it gets accelerated when hitting the right floor, the right wall, I'm sorry, and does nothing when just changes its delta when hitting the left. Also, we need our cacti to move, so we add x delta to their x coordinate, so they move simply. Then we come to our for each function that goes for that does stuff about collision detection. So if that was not the case, this code didn't exist, the collision detection would not also. And what it is, that means if our cacti get hit by just hit our gorilla, physically there would not be any hit, so they wouldn't get attached to each other. The game wouldn't know that. So I can even demonstrate that. So let me comment out this part until this part. I hope I didn't crash anything. Okay, so you can see cactus comes to gorilla and it goes over and nothing happens. So there is no collision detection. That is very important thing in every game and many parts of programming. So what it is actually, we need to check I actually did the solution, wrote the solution this way. So I check if gorilla gets hit by the left side of a cactus or by its right side, and for each scenario something happens. In our case it is just a game over and reset. We reset the game. So how to do that? So we need wait a second. So like this. So we need to check our, when hitting cactus from the left side, we need to check its if its left side coordinate of the gorilla's left, if the gorilla's left side coordinate is in between the right side coordinate, like the right edge of cactus, and the left side, left coordinate, the very left coordinate of the cactus. So for x-axis, if this coordinate, the very left of gorilla, is in between this and this, basically for x-axis, this can be considered as a collision, but that is not enough because our gorilla may have been jumping over, and in that case it would also be considered as a collision, right, for x-axis. So we also need to check that for the left, for y coordinate. So we do the same for y coordinate. Check if this side is in between this and this. So its floor is in between this floor and the higher part of a cactus. We do that for each cactus. That's why we use for each function. And what else? This is a scenario for the left, when gorilla hits cactus from left side. From the right side, it is a little bit different. So when gorilla comes here, its very right side is gotta be in between the very left and very right sides of a cactus. So this is considered a collision for x-axis, and we should consider the same as we did previously for y-axis. So this floor is in between this and this floor. So this is a theory. Practical solution is over here. We can go over it if you want, or if you don't, you can scroll forward. Yeah. So we have for each function, for each enemy that is a cactus, we need to check if the cactus x is less than heroes x, and cactus x plus, no, I should have written here cactus.width, but as this is an animation, stuff is no, as these pictures are a bit different, stuff, their boxes are a little bit less or bigger, so I found that +3 is most optimal solution for this. Again, sorry for the interruption. I exceeded again the recording limit for my program. It's a free trial, so sorry for that. Sorry about that. So basically, what we do here is checking if our gorilla is getting hit from the if our gorilla is from the right side of the cactus. So that's why we need to check if it's x, if the cactus x is less than our hero's x coordinate, and if our cactus dot x plus 3 is greater than hero dot x. So I told why it is 3, not cactus dot width. So it is just some optimization thing. And we check stuff for our y coordinate. As you can see, we check if our cactus dot y is less than or equal here hero dot y plus 70. It is not hero dot y plus hero height because of the same reasons. Then if this is the case, we need to say that our game is over, and by that I alert game over, close this window to play again. So what window is that? So it is, let me refresh the game. So it is basically this window that you can see over here. And the same thing we check for the other side of our cactus, for the collision from the other side. From the other side of the cactus. And it is if our x coordinate is greater than hero's x coordinate, and the x coordinate is cactus x coordinate is less than hero's x plus 45. It is again 45 for this optimization thing. And again, we check the same thing for y-axis. As it is static, we don't have any changes, much of changes on that y-axis. We alert game over again if the hit was from the other side. And what's this part? And this is identical. We just set basically we set our hero's x coordinate to its initial spawn point, and do stuff for each enemy. So for each cactus we set x to again random x coordinate in this interval, and we change y delta to again random either positive or negative numbers. So I didn't go in depth how do we do this. So math power is just power of our number. So if we write math power, let me show you here. If we write math dot power, say 2 and 2, it would take number 2 and give it a power of 2. It is that simple. So we take number -1 and randomly take a number between 1 and 2. As I told, function rand, as I have it written over there, it takes a number from, in this case, from 0 to 1, but we need a number from 1 to 2, so the -1 of power 1 would be -1, so we have our cactus moving to the left, and we have we have number 1 here, and we have 1 plus 1, so we have a 2. If we have a 2, we would have square, and as we all know, a square of a negative number is a positive number. So we would have our cactus moving to the right side. This is basically it. Also, we have cactus.img. So I want our cacti have a new image that is chosen randomly from array that is called cacti, and it is over here. Yeah. So here we didn't have random 3 plus 1 because we start counting from a 0. So the 0th element of an array is cactus 1, the first one is 2, and the second is 3. That's why we don't have plus 1 over there. This plus 1. And identical thing is going on over here. So I don't go over it again. Basically, this is the most important part. These are the most important parts of the code, and I had some other stuff in it. As you can see, if game data is post and stuff was that. So in game data, I had a thing that was set to a true value. Is post is true. So why do I have this thing? I wanted my game to get post when I click a space key. Click on the space key. So I tried to go for a easiest solution I could come up with. So I set some key to a true value, and here I wrote if my game data is post is true, so nothing would go over because it would be false, and if it is false, the request animation frame in this recursion would only move. So it is an empty function basically that gets recursed. What happens then? Okay, if nothing gets drawn, nothing gets happening. I have here another event listener for key down. That is, yeah, that is here. So I have my key code equal to a space bar. And when I hit a space bar, I change my game data is post to its inverse value. So if it was true, it would be false, and if it was false, then it would be true. So as you saw, we had again an other inverse over here. So initially this has a value of a true. So if it is like so, it would be considered as a false because of this Boolean operator, and nothing would happen. But as I press space key, this transforms into a false, and the inverse of a false is a true. So this overall this thing becomes a true, and you can see that everything that is in our function draw gets drawn, and everything that is in our update data gets updated. So this and this entire chunk of stuff, yeah. So this is how I implemented what's that? This is how I implemented this pause thing over here. Game title is post. Simple enough, I hope. So basically, this is all I have in my game. Oh, also, as the game starts, I have this alert: close this window and hit space to start. So when game starts from the very beginning, when we refresh, okay, so it says close this window and hit space to start. So we close this window, and again the space I just described why it is a space. So we have space key down, and game starts, blah blah blah, something happens. Oh, and collision detection doesn't work. So let me fix that. Okay, so I had that extra math power left there. So this is basically it. This is my game. Hope you like that. Actually, I would get amazed if you watch till the end. So thank you very much for that. And see you in the next one.